The relationship of the master and the disciple is maybe the oldest and only non-biological relationship, also with a non-biological motive. People all over the world have always been at least fascinated by figures who claim to have something that is higher, holier than anything present in the analogous to animal life of an ordinary person. It is a privilege or maybe a misfortune, gifted or cursed, to only human beings to be in need of something more than food, mate, and shelter, unlike the apparently content, or to be more precise, not discontented lives of every other living being in the whole world. So only rare of these master figures have pointed to the road to self-knowledge, and most of these masters have provided an alternate set of unconventional beliefs with a flavor of rebellion to satisfy the taste buds of people in want of spiritual entertainment. Now it's really fascinating to see how Paul Thomas Anderson, who has had a consistently unprejudiced view towards his characters from the days of Boogie Nights, portrays the relationship of the master and the disciple. The master, Lancaster Dodd, is the charismatic leader of a movement called the Cause, which is very similar to Dianetics, which is also a precursor of Scientology, developed by L. Ron Hubbard. Now comparing both of these might be an interesting exercise, but I don't think that it would be very worthwhile because it is very obvious the superficial influence of Dianetics on the master, and I wouldn't say that Paul Thomas Anderson wanted to make any kind of statement or to even give a commentary on Scientology. And it might be more appropriate to say that period took these influences as more like a starting point to delve into more profound questions. The master interestingly follows the story of a disciple. The master is more like a chapter in the story of Freddie Quell, a World War II veteran trying to adjust in the post-war society. We don't get any idea of the kind of trauma he has went through in the war, but we sure can see the reflection of the trauma in his erratic behavior, which is especially apparent when he beats up a customer of his for absolutely no reason. He sometimes seems like a monkey on steroids, or more like an orphan child trapped in an adult human body. Some might disagree, but the way I see it, I don't find him in search of any meaning. He is more like an animal sailing to where his instincts take him, like a leaf flowing in a river. In the beginning, he is not shown having any kind of interest in any of the abstract nouns. What he cares about are only the most sensual pleasures, until, of course, when he meets the master. One night when he is walking around a port, he sees people dancing and celebrating on a ship on a deck, and naturally he goes inside and the ship sails. This scene cuts to morning when we see him waking up on a bed in the ship, and people behave to him quite nicely for an apparent stowaway. We have no idea what happened last night because Freddy, who might have got too drunk, also has forgotten. We only get a slight glimpse of what might have happened when we see Lancaster talking to him for the first time in his study room. Through this conversation, we get a slight glimpse that something must have happened last night that made Lancaster not kick Freddy out of the ship, but keep him there as a possible asset, or maybe, according to Lancaster, a possible possibility. In the informal processing session which Lancaster performs with Freddy, it seems like that this informal processing is like a variation of hypnosis with a Lancaster touch. Unlike the passive and relaxed approach of hypnosis, this processing is more active and confrontational. Freddy might not have been so vulnerable in front of anybody in a long time, and in this session when he sees this esoteric man taking unusual interest in a nobody like Freddy, a unique bond forms between the two. After that, Freddy becomes one of the main people in the entourage of Lancaster and follows him in all his journeys. In a dinner party in New York, when a skeptical man questions Lancaster's pseudoscientific methods and ideas between a lot of people, Lancaster starts making flawed analogies and starts giving inconsistent statements, leading up to an angry, abusive outburst in reaction to an attack on his possibly fragile ideas and blatant claims. After that incident, Freddy goes up to the skeptics and beats him up, to the slight dismay of Lancaster. Maybe Lancaster is somewhere pleased with Freddie's behavior, as he proved himself as an unquestioningly passionate and dedicated asset to Lancaster for the propagation of his ideas in his upcoming voyages. We also get an idea that Lancaster's relationship with his son Val is not filled with enough dedication and reverence. This idea gets enunciated when we see Val sitting outside one of his father's sessions and saying to Freddie that he is making all these things as he goes along. When Lancaster is arrested for wrongful withdrawal of funds and running a medical school without a license, and Freddie is also locked up for his misbehavior with police officers, both of them start to insult each other in the most vile manner possible. Freddie being his usual self, and Lancaster falling from his grace and esoteric aura to be mirroring Freddie in their respective fits. In a subsequent family dinner scene, when various family members state their assumptions and discontents about Freddie, Lancaster thanks them for their honesty and says that if we are not helping him, then it is we who have failed him. This scene alone is a testament that Lancaster is not a charlatan but a leader with strong belief in what he propagates and practices. Those beliefs have a possibility to be untrue, but he isn't consciously lying and exploiting people. For example, he truly wants betterment of Freddie, whatever betterment means to him. In another scene, when the Laura Dern character asks Lancaster about why he changed the word in "can you recall" to "can you imagine" in his latest book, he again momentarily loses his cool because someone pointed at a possible flaw of something that Lancaster holds dear and has based his whole life on. Sometime after Freddie disappears on a motorcycle while playing Pick-a-Point, when Freddie visits Lancaster and Lancaster sings him on a slow boat to China, he weeps, but ultimately takes his own path and leaves Lancaster. Why did he leave him? There is no definitive answer on either possibilities of the question. The film ends with a shot of Freddie, this time sleeping next to the sand girl we know from the beginning. I don't think this relationship between Freddie and Lancaster ultimately became anything higher or holier than any other normal love affair. Both were a lot to each other when they were together, but when they parted, they became what they were before, unchanged and hopefully unscathed. That's the way of nature.